Money has got to be the greatest enabler. Those little pieces of paper we keep in our pockets has become the most valuable tangible object we most likely would spend most of our lives getting more of. Like it or not, we all have an item or two in our bucket list that we won't get to do if we don't have the greens to spend for it. But there are people out there who can truly say that money has no object. The 1% of billionaires of the world who probably possess more than half of the world's wealth wouldn't even need to think twice about the cost of their little luxuries. So for today's video, allow us to give you a glimpse of a world just beyond our sustained fingertips by looking at 5 things that 1% of billionaires do that most people don't, and probably won't even get to do. But before anything else, if you find this video interesting and like seeing the harsh realities of capitalism and the ever-growing disparity between rich and poor, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like, and ring that notification bell, that way you never miss out on future updates. This is Genzo. Own an island. Remember those little minuscule green blots you see the world map during geography class? Did you know you could actually own one? But of course, it would probably cost a little more than buying a little plot of land on the outskirts. Okay, it would cost a lot more, but surprisingly enough, according to Forbes, you could actually purchase an island for a cheap price of $50,000. But with a price like that, you shouldn't expect it to be the top-end type, according to Farhad Vladi, founder and CEO of Vladi Private Islands. That location alone is not the single determining factor for island prices. It would depend on topography, accessibility, emotional value, current development, and potential for new development. So you could say that purchasing an island is a bit different from purchasing a normal residential area. If you were to visit a couple of sites that endorse private islands, you'd see that a 1,335-acre island in Greece would cost around $44 million. A 1,492-acre island in Panama would cost $38 million, while a mere 169 acres in the Maldives would cost you around $65 million. But that's not the only cost you have to consider if you're going to buy an island. You see, just like buying a house, you don't just pay for the house. No, you pay for its maintenance. You pay for further construction projects. You pay for resources, materials. Quite frankly, anything that would make the island better or at least maintain its tip-top shape would cost a lot of money. And of course, the larger the property, the heftier the price to maintain it. So island buying could really be just a billionaire's game. You could be sure that any advertisements that start with "slice of heaven on earth" isn't going to be cheap. Eat the most extravagant foods. Foods is one of the basic needs of man, and even during medieval times, the richest and most powerful men in the world got to taste the most exquisite, top-quality food items available. Well, not much has really changed since then. The unique thing about this particular category is that paying more doesn't necessarily mean eating more. In fact, funny as it is, it could mean the exact opposite when it comes to food. The higher the class, the more exclusive the restaurant becomes. The smaller the portion size would be, and that's because you go beyond the point of paying for the food alone. You also pay for the ambiance. According to The Lonely Planet, some of the most expensive restaurants could be found in Conrad Ringali Island, Maldives, New York City, USA, Ibiza, Spain, Modena, Italy, and of course, Paris, France, the culinary center of the world. A course meal in any of these restaurants would cost around $200 to $1,200 per head. Just considering the place, the prices, and overall fanciness of these restaurants would make any downtown KFC look sad. And that's just restaurants. We haven't even started with the billionaires' menu items. Have you ever heard of London's $1,500 caviar cronut topped with golden flakes? Or what about the $25,000 diamond-encrusted ice cream complete with 24-karat golden leaf in New York's Serendipity restaurant? How about the $3.7 million bottle of vodka, aptly named Billionaires Vodka, in Moscow, Russia? To most of us, the thought of spending this much money on any single food item is insane. But not for these billionaires. In fact, it's even reported that some would take the effort to travel to their favorite restaurant on the opposite side of the world just for a decent meal. Which brings us to our next point. Traveling in luxury. For a billionaire, traveling is a necessary aspect of life. With all those overseas meetings, private islands, and outlandish restaurants, it's only right that you have a comfortable means of getting from point A to point B. Which is why having a few $1,000,000 at your disposal really comes in handy for these insistent traveling needs. Be it land, air, or sea, there's always a way to travel in style and ultimate convenience. sports cars have quickly become a trend for the rising millionaires. Nowadays, even a rising YouTuber would be rich enough to afford one of these bad boys. So, sports cars are actually a staple for millionaires and billionaires. A modern model such as those of the likes of Bugatti, Mercedes, and Lamborghini is priced at $5 million to $18 million. Or maybe if you're a vintage car enthusiast, perhaps a $30 million 1954 Mercedes-Benz. Or if you're more of a Ferrari kind of guy, then maybe a $70 million 1963 Ferrari 250. After all, vintage does give off a hint of class. Now, what if you need to travel overseas? Well, don't worry, because there's a billionaire solution for that as well. Presenting the private jet. These babies are valued at around $3 million to $90 million. But if you factor in staff, maintenance, fuel, and a few modifications, it could soar to as high as a few $100 million. But if that means avoiding traffic and cutting travel time to a mere few hours, then private jets are the way to go. Now, what other travel means would scream luxury other than those ridiculously sleek white yachts? The best possible way to describe them would be floating luxury hotels, because that's basically what they are. Billionaires, especially those with honorary sea legs, are known to cruise around these luxury power vessels either for travel, racing, or basically just for pleasure. Some A-list celebrities and famous personalities are known to own yachts like Johnny Depp, Steven Spielberg, Tiger Woods, and a lot more. Needless to say, sailing the sea in style is a pretty sweet deal. Multi-million-dollar homes and skyscrapers. From the Great Pyramid of Giza from the ancient times to the Trump Towers of today, it's easy to surmise that wealthy people sure do like investing in these monumental projects. Actually, if you think about it, buildings, monuments, and large-scale constructions are without a doubt the best way of exhibiting your wealth and power to the world. Obviously, the first major construction project billionaires tend to invest on is their own homes, so it's no surprise that some of the most expensive houses in the world today are those owned by the wealthiest people. Mukesh Ambani's 400,000 square foot skyscraper home in Mumbai is valued to cost $1 billion to $2 billion. Lily Safra, a Brazilian, stated to have a net worth of $1.2 billion, owns a $500 million mansion, which was priced at £750 million at the time of purchase. Interestingly enough, there's actually a very well-known street in New York City, appropriately named as the Billionaires Row. The row is basically known as the most expensive street in the city, with super tall luxury skyscrapers with a median selling price of $9.8 million for each building. The area has already seen some record-breaking real estate purchases, such as those made by hedge fund manager Ken Griffin, who purchased a building worth $238 million. So when it comes to multi-million-dollar houses and privately owned skyscrapers, the list could just go on and on. Spoiling kids rotten. Now here's something we could relate to, because it doesn't matter whether you belong to the low economic class or one of these big-time billionaires. No matter who you are, you tend to spoil your children every now and then. Parents always want to shower their children with love, but funny enough, some can actually literally shower their children with money. Gifts are the most common love language of parents, so if you add gift-giving love to billionaire parents, you get a very happy kid. In the no-hold-barred gift-giving extravaganza of these parents, anything goes. From a Shandy Wells $88 million penthouse to Petra and Tamara Ecclestone's free access to their father's $4.8 billion trust, it's easy to see that you can never really put a price on a parent's love. The list of extravagant gifts include top-brand clothes like Armani, Gucci, and Chanel, dazzling million-dollar jewelry, top-of-the-line sports cars, even their very own buildings and brands. You name it, they've probably got it. Perhaps these kids are the very definition of being born lucky. So that's it for this video of the 5 things 1% of billionaires do that most people don't. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss out on future updates. Until next time.